Back in, I want to say about 2022, I watched a gameplay video for Redfall. At this point, I hadn't heard of Redfall, and I didn't know a thing about it, but the video did seem pretty neat. It showed a character walking through an abandoned church and following a blood trail. Eventually, the character climbs a ladder, enters into the attic, where they encounter a vampire, fight it, and kill it. Cool, I thought. A first-person vampire horror game. I was very interested in the idea, and out of fear of spoilers, I clicked off the video, and eventually, I forgot about the game entirely. That was until about a year later, when another trailer dropped, and I learned that this was actually a 4-player co-op looter-shooter, and not some kind of single-player horror game. I've said this a few times, mostly on stream, but I'm not really into MMOs or games that are aimed towards co-op. I don't and never have gelled with them. I don't really have friends to play with, and most of my experience in co-op games or online games have been extremely negative. I know trash talking is normal, and yeah, sure, whatever, but it isn't really my thing. You know, I don't really play a game to get away from life to have somebody just call me an idiot and a bunch of other things that I cannot repeat. Some people have positive experiences, but I never have, and I usually tune out online features in games entirely. It was actually a bummer to find out Redfall wasn't a single-player game. The idea of creeping around a town filled with bloodthirsty vampires trying to uncover some sort of mystery or something like it, it sounded really awesome. We always get zombie apocalypse films and games, but we never really get vampire ones. I remember enjoying the movie 30 Days of Night and thought it would be something like that, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. So I tuned out all things Redfall and moved on with my life. That is until the game launched. Then it became near impossible to hide from anything and everything Redfall related. The short version is, Redfall was pretty much hated by most who played it. I mean, people tore this game apart in a brutal fashion. Now, that isn't to say it didn't have its fans. For every person who hates something, somebody somewhere will love it, and the opposite is true as well. The saying is, one man's trash is another man's treasure. That aside, in the gaming circles I move around in, people regarded Redfall as nothing but trash, so I was kinda glad I avoided it. In time, all the chatter surrounding Redfall died down, and everybody moved on, including myself. That was until November of 2023. Steam was having a sale, and I was browsing around for hot deals. Most of my purchases were actually things for this channel, in fact. While I was browsing around, I stumbled onto Redfall. It was sitting there for 20 bucks and had a mostly negative review score. I chuckled and rolled my eyes before scrolling away. But then I stopped, and an idea popped into my head. What if I picked this game up and see if it was as bad as everybody said it was? I thought that could make for an interesting video. I don't know about you, but something I really dislike, especially here on YouTube, is just everybody going with the flow. I understand that that's what gets the views and the likes and so on, but it never feels worth it to me. It's why I'm honest, even if it's not what people want to hear. We all have our own tastes, even if some of those tastes aren't exactly what the internet likes. I wanted to give Redfall a chance. An honest chance. The game had been updated since launch, and I thought maybe I could give it a little bit of love and show people that it isn't as bad as everybody was making it out to be, especially with all those updates. So I bought it, and I installed it. I wanted to check out Redfall from two different viewpoints. As a single-player game, which it isn't, but it does let you play on your own, and as a co-op game as intended. That was assuming I could find others to play with. And that in mind, I started the game. 54 hours later, well, to put it as nicely as possible, I wish I had never played this game. Heck, if all you wanted to hear was the answer to should you play it, the answer is a resounding no. Now, if you want to hear why I feel the way I do, then please join me on a little adventure as I take a look at Arcane Austin's 2023 release of Redfall. However, a quick and kind of important side note before we start. Normally in these videos, I tend to guide you through the game's main story and do my best to turn it into a little adventure because I think that's what's fun. This time, I will not be doing that. I expect some of you will hit the dislike button and leave for what I'm about to say, but truthfully that might be for the best. I actually have no real idea what's going on in the story. Call me a moron if you like, that's fine, but I can't tell you a story I couldn't follow. So if you're expecting a full comprehensive story breakdown like I normally do, sorry pal, I can't give that to you this time around. This time, it's going to be a little different. I've no doubt in my mind I could have just watched a story breakdown video or read up on what's going on, but my own lack of understanding somewhat ties into things I have to say, so I'll do my best, but I assure you my best won't really be enough. So this time around, the story section will feel, it's going to be different. So strap in, pal, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. Also, sorry again in advance. Redfall begins with an animated slideshow sequence, almost like a comic book. We're treated to an unknown woman's voice talking about how the events in Redfall are all because of her. She goes on to explain that her blood was special and that they promised that they could change the world with her blood and cure all sickness and perhaps even death itself. A utopia. But it was all a lie, a horrible, terrible lie. They were selfish monsters who experimented on her. They used her, took everything they could from her, and when they were done, locked her away. With her blood, they would slowly take over the town, and before anyone even noticed what was going on, it was far too late. Vampires had overrun the small coastal town of Redfall, Massachusetts. In the fear and the chaos, some turned on each other, some worshipped, some hid, while others fled on a boat. But the ones who began this madness weren't about to let anybody escape. And with their power, they made the seas rise and trap the once peaceful town in a bubble. However, hope was not lost. When pushed to the edge, heroes will rise to fight back the darkness, and that is where our true story begins. Our lone hero, Devinder Crowsley, wakes up on the ship's bridge after being knocked out. The escape boat he was on was trapped within the rising and frozen ocean. Two vampires are feeding upon their recent victim in front of him. Eventually, they notice him and begin to stalk closer, but something stops them. One of them comments that she'll want to see before the two quickly leave. Moments later, a tall vampire struts her stuff up onto the bridge. This one, very different from the others. Clearly, she's in control. She tells Devinda that she wants him alive because she can use him, but before anything else can happen, our friend the sun starts to roast her alive. This, of course, upsets her, and she tells Devinda he'll never see the sun again. Remember she said that, pals, because it will be on the test later. After that, she pieces out. Now alone, Devinda makes his way through the ship, taking in the carnage and the, well, rather impressive view if I'm honest, before exiting. But once he does, he's horrified to watch as the sun begins to eclipse, but in a very strange way. This is the work of that head vampire lady who speaks to Devinda telepathically and tells him she broke the sun. Again, write this down and remember it because it will be on the test. That's twice now she brought up wanting to create a black hole sun. Oh no, I feel it. It's coming on, pals. I don't think I can stop it. Devinda slowly makes his way from the ship and eventually to her fire station. At the fire station, Devinda encounters another problem. Cultists. These people worship the vampires as gods, and before the sun was blacked out, these lunatics would hunt down victims in the daylight for the vampires to feed on at night. Why would they do this? Well, for some, it's out of fear, others in hopes of joining them, but mostly, well, it gives them a sense of community, you know? A group of like-minded individuals to chat with, you know, grab a relaxing cup of cafe con leche and, you know, maybe even find love. Sure, they're crazy lunatics, but even loco vampire worshipping cult members need a shoulder to cry on, so, you know, don't judge. You know, don't judge. They wouldn't judge you. Well, they do, because you're not, you know, in their cult, but anyway, jokes aside, these people are dangerous, and right now, they're at the fire station hunting down a group of survivors. So, without wasting any time, Devinda leaps into action and saves the poor folks. Over the course of what feels like mere seconds, thanks to a handy-dandy montage slideshow, the survivors clean up, restore, and fortify the fire station. This will be our HQ. But who are these fine folks? Well, you've got Dr. Man, who runs the clinic. He wears glasses that he never actually uses, and he has facial hair. How do I know that he is a doctor, you ask? Well, because he wears that coat they wear sometimes, and has a clipboard, you know. Those are important for doctoring, I think. And we also have Pregnant Lady. She sells us guns. Her hobbies include sitting down because, you know, she has a bun in the oven, and she enjoys hats and scuffed, ripped jeans, you know. Oh, and finally, we have Reverend Lady. She does, you know, the thing, you know, stands and keeps her arms folded so people can look at her tattoos. Yeah, of course. Okay, look, I actually have no idea who these people are. I can't tell you their names because I don't remember them. The only thing I remember is, well, the only things I remember is, to be completely honest with you, is what I just told you. They don't really talk much. You don't, like, sit down with them and have a heart-to-heart with them and things like that. You know, they talk to themselves sometimes. It's easily missable, and sometimes you can do a side quest for them, and some of those are completely missable. But other than that, you don't really learn anything at all. So, I don't know. Normally, I wouldn't put this in the script now. I'd put it in later, but I had to introduce them now. So, the point here is, we've got a home base, and now that these people are here and we're all together, we can fight back the vampires. Except they won't be doing any of that because we'll be doing all the hard work. They'll stay back and hold down the fort. Yeah. Well, who am I kidding? They're pretty much useless. I mean, I genuinely am deeply worried about how intelligent they are. Look at this lady. Look at her. She stands there forever trying to get a soda out of a broken vending machine. How do I know it's broken? There is a sign posted that says it right there. So, who am I kidding? Now I'm starting to see how this whole town was taken over, but I'm getting massively distracted and sidetracked here, so let's continue. Okay, so the next part, I'm just going to boil down for the sake of my own sanity and the story. So, as Devinda travels across the town of Redfall, kicking vampire butt, looting chests, doing some side missions, and collecting strange glowing locks of hair that give him telepathic messages, I'll get to that later, he eventually comes face to face with the Hollow Man. And by face to face, I mean face to TV screen. You see, a powerful vampire god rules this area of Redfall, and this vampire is called the Hollow Man. He somehow can broadcast his influence and messages through radios and TV. But who is he? Well, after some digging around, it turns out he was once a man called Peter Addison, who was a professor. It seemed Peter had some sort of Come on, dyslexia, don't fail me now. Okay, hang on. He had a neurodegenerative... Oh, God. Why do I make these videos? I'm making such a fool of myself online. Peter had a neurodegenerative illness. I hope I got that right. He tried very desperately to cure it. One day he found that his young daughter's blood could somehow slow the advance of this illness, and so he would perform blood transfusions. He'd take some of her blood and inject it into himself. And then he'd take a little more next time. And a little more. And a little more, all while ignoring the very health of his daughter. One day, however, he took a little too much, and by the time he realized what was going on, his daughter died of blood loss. With his daughter now dead, and no more blood, his illness would eventually begin to take hold, and he'd slowly start losing his mind and grip on reality. That is, until one day, two twins turn up at his door. They offer him a job at their biotech company in Redfall, Avium Therapeutics, or Avium for short. These two siblings were Charles and Claire Beck. He accepted the job and went to work for them, and after that, he began experimenting on himself until one day he injected himself with something and transformed himself into a monstrous vampire, and of course, with this new look and ego to match, he changed his name to the Hollow Man. Why Hollow Man? I have no idea, but why not the Hollow Man? You know what I mean? Like, if I became a vampire god, I'd give myself a cool name too. Maybe something like Jeff. Yeah, Jeff. Jeff has a nice ring to it. I somehow think the name Jeff fits a vampire. Yeah, I don't know why the name Jeff fits a vampire. Anyway, are you confused yet? Well, don't worry, because things are gonna start making sense soon. Maybe. With the Hollow Man controlling this area of Redfall, we have to defeat him in order to continue forward. So, it's off to the Hollow Man's fancy schmancy mansion. Devinda carves a bloody and rather ashy path through the heart of Redfall and towards the Hollow Man's location. It takes some doing because, you see, the Hollow Man has locked himself in a room like an upset teen, but not just any room, pals, because this vampire isn't some lower class vampire blood-sucking thing. Oh no, no. This is a vampire god, and as such he gets his own special psychic realm room, which is locked behind a special psychic door that may or may not actually be real and physical or something. I don't know. Whatever. The only way to open said door is, of course, killing 3 mini-bosses and placing their ash-covered skulls on the Hollow Man's door. That's the only way to unlock this special psychic realm room door. Oh yes. Because, once again, this is a vampire god, okay? You can't just have a simple door bolt as a locking mechanism. Get out of here with that peasant vampire garbage. Jeez. I'm feeling insulted right now. Anyway, once the skulls are placed on the door opens and Devinda is able to step inside and in to the Hollow Man's realm. This place is strange and built from the mind of the Hollow Man. His entire house is just a giant dollhouse in here. However, just outside the house is a strange projection. This projection warns us about the Hollow Man and then vanishes. But what was it? What could it be? Well, if you had the subtitles on, it tells us exactly what that projection was and who it was, which is pretty stupid, but whatever. Anyway, Devinda progresses further inside and finds the man himself, a giant vampire abomination who is hostile from the moment he sees us. The fight is intense and he throws everything he can at us, but when it comes to Devinda, there's nothing he can't handle, okay? Because we're talking about a guy who braved the vampire-infested town to get parts to fix a popcorn machine for the people back at the headquarters at the fire station, you know, to build morale. So, that was a side quest I did. So, yeah, anyway, safe to say the Hollow Man doesn't stand a chance, and he doesn't because after enough bullets are pumped into him, he drops to the ground and Devinda goes up and stakes the man, killing him. For good this time. With the Hollow Man dead, Devinda returns back to the fire station and reports his success. The people there tell him that after the Hollow Man died, all the TVs and radios began to work, as they, should. And it was at that moment another group of survivors radioed in for help. It appears they need help dealing with 2 more head vampires somewhere further inland. So, Devinda packs his bags and heads further inland. After making his way through a long tunnel, Devinda reached Redfall's burial point, a part of Redfall's town, but that's only just a little bit further inland. It's a nice place, actually, if it wasn't for the vampires and the cultists. However, this place isn't like the heart of Redfall itself. This place is filled with 2 warring cultist groups. One side worships Bloody Tom, a vampire who, rather than talk through TVs and radios, likes to talk through crucified dead people. So, it's unique, I guess, I'll give him that. And the other side worships Miss Whisper, who... Actually, I have no idea what she does. Maybe whispers to people? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, Devinda makes his way across Burial Point and over to a group of survivors who were radioing for help. And they are trapped in Redfall's Maritime Center. What's trapping them there, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it's a tree. A big blood tree, which is a tree that a vampire decides to take a quick nap inside and then becomes one with the tree for some reason, and then the cultists offer up their lives to the vampire tree so it can grow and be happy, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. You'd think that people would have noticed this happening outside, but whatever. Either way, the tree's gotta go. So after waking up the vampire within the tree and giving it the old stake in the heart routine, Devinda is able to make the tree vanish, because I guess the tree became a vampire also, so it was a vampiric tree, so... Okay, whatever, sure. Oh, anyway, the survivors thank Devinda and get to work fixing up the Maritime Center as a HQ for this part of the area. So they do all this in total and complete silence because for some reason the cutscene bugged out. Maybe it was still thinking about how the blood tree worked or something. I don't know. In fact, right now you're actually listening to the raw, unedited gameplay with with the sound. So, as you can clearly tell, something went wrong here. So, yippee! Anyway, see, look, here's me checking to see if the sound actually... maybe I did something wrong, but turns out no, everything's at 100%. Anyway, oh, and before you even ask me to introduce the second group of survivors, I'm not going to, because I remember even less about them, and I spent more time with them than I did with the first group. And the only reason why I don't know much about this group of survivors is because they kept bugging out. They kept repeating the same dialogue to each other, or they'd break the quests, and doesn't matter. Anyway, I'll get to that later on. After that, Devinda gets told the situation here, which is that two head vampires are in full control of this area, as I explained earlier, and they both need to go. First up is Bloody Tom, aka Thomas Kildare, who just straight up invites us to his cult's fortress so we can join him. So Devinda just struts his stuff up to the fortress and is welcomed there with open arms and is able to meet Bloody Tom without any issues whatsoever. So, okay, I'm kidding. It wasn't that easy. It wasn't that easy. It turns out old Tommy Boy isn't actually there at their HQ. He has a psychic door there, which is a real physical door and not a psychic door this time. It opens a gateway to his mind, I guess. Anyway, after opening the door and going through Monsters, Inc. style, we learned that Tom worked for Avium and the twins, Claire and Charles. But I have no idea what he did for them. He just worked there. Anyway, while he was at home, he cared for his sick father, but this annoyed Tom, so he ignored his father's cries for help and left him to die. What does this have to do with the story? Nothing, really. At least I don't think so. His dad used to have a bell that he'd use to call out for his son when he needed something, and that annoyed Tom because he was getting high and trying to focus on his, like, chakras, or trying to ascend to a higher plane of existence, or something. I don't know. And that, combined with the constant need to care for his father and the ringing of the bell, just made him snap. So he took his father's bell away and just left him to die slowly in silence. So now, thanks to the real memory door, we have the bell, or at least the memory of the bell given physical form. Maybe. I don't know. And with this bell, we can use it to summon Bloody Tom. Look, I don't know. This is when the story genuinely started falling apart for me. Like, as soon as I got into Burial Point, everything started to collapse, even the game itself. But anyway, with the bell in hand, Devinda now marches on over to Bloody Tom's house and up to his psychic realm door and has to go kill more 3 minibosses because old Bloody Tom took a page out of the Hollow Man's book and, you know, not only gave himself a new name as I mentioned earlier, but I guess he uses the same lock system for his Mind Palace door thing, so more mini-bosses to fight. Yay! Woo! Good times. After getting the skulls and ringing the bell, Devinda, the little bell that, not the bell, the bell, that little ring, doesn't matter. Devinda goes inside the realm, and what does he learn in Bloody Tom's realm? More secrets about the vampire gods? More secrets about Avium, or its mysterious owners? Well, no, not really. He sees Devinda sees a memory of Tom speaking with Miss Whisper, or at least, you know, her former self, and they're talking to some other guy that I've never met before, and they're all talking about the gateway, which doesn't make any sense right now, but anyway, after bumping into them and learning all about them, we then bump into the Golden Man projection again, which, you know, we did with the Hollow Man, and he warns us about Tom and then just pieces out. Again, thanks to the subtitles, we already know who this person is, so mystery, who needs it, you know? Anyway, after that, we fight Bloody Tom, who, much like the Hollow Man, is a evil, giant vampire with wild powers. And I won't lie, this fight actually took me a while, because I kept getting trapped in, like, and killed with Bloody Tom's blood bomb attacks. So, with enough persistence, Devinda was able to deal enough damage to weaken. I'm going off the rails right now. I am off the deep end. I am messed up. I need to just have a quick sip of Dr. Pepper here. Just don't mind me, everybody. Just keep pretending that you're working. Just, you know, keep pretending you're working or keep grinding away. I'll keep you company. Don't worry about it. Just give me a second here. Ooh, yeah. Dr. Pepper. I love it. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, eventually with enough persistence, Devinda is able to deal enough damage to weaken Tom and then stake him. So, 2 vampire gods down. Next up is Miss Whisper. Tracking down Miss Whisper, aka Dr. Alice Young, is pretty much as easy as Bloody Tom was. We just go to her clinic, kill some cultists, enter into her memory palace realm thing, and grab her special item, which is a key. A regular old door keys. Sure. But what makes this key so special, you might be asking? Well, I'm glad you asked, because inside her memory realm, we learn a little bit about her and, you know, for the sake of the story, I'm going to boil it all down for you, but, you know, it's also how I best understood it. So, her memories tell that she was experimenting on a young woman named Grace. Who is Grace? Well, the game doesn't tell you, at least not yet, but you can hear Grace talking, and because of that, it is very clear who Grace is. So I'm just going to tell you. Grace is the young woman who narrated the intro cutscene. She's the one who said everything about how all this was her fault and that she had a gift and was tricked and people experimented on her, so on and so forth. That is Grace, and this is Grace. Now, what were the experiments being performed on her? I'm not 100% sure on that. It seems to have given her some sort of psychic abilities, or maybe just enhanced the ones she already had, or something, but it seems rather clear from just how she's talking that all this is new to her, so I'm just going to assume that she was either given them or had psychic abilities unlocked. So there you go. Now, Miss Whisper was not just doing that to Grace, but other people here as well. Avium was funding her experimentations here so she could unlock the goal of a blood trance. Whatever that is. I never figured out what that was. After a while of all of this going on, Grace's aunt, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but they keep referring to her as just Miss Wayland, but it's heavily hinted at that it's a member from Grace's family, and I'm pretty sure it's her aunt, so that's what I'm gonna go with. Eventually, Grace's aunt came to the clinic to check up on her, but Miss Whisper and the others were of course doing some shady stuff to her, so they refused to let her see her. And rather than just pay her a lot of money to leave and never come back or tell her a lie, Miss Whisper went with the third and cheaper option of, you know, just locking her up in the basement clinic. So, yeah, and then eventually she, at least from what I can tell, will very slowly die of starvation and or dehydration. So there you go. Although you wouldn't know what was happening based on the memory. In fact, it seems Devinda is able to see something I couldn't, because I couldn't tell what the heck was going on. These memory things are a terrible way to convey what's happening. It's just, she's like, get off of me, and then, you can't do this to me. I mean, you can literally see it on screen. Can you see what's happening? I'll even play a little bit for you right now.
You help people. You're gonna help me.
I told you to let go of me. Thank you, Miss Wayne.
You can't do this to me. Now, come on, let me out of here.
No one will go. Completely forgotten and alone. Just...
See? Could you tell what was happening? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I couldn't tell what was happening. But anyway, that's what happened. So yeah, the only reason I know Devinda is right in saying that something bad happened and that she did die in the basement is because that key we got, that special psychic key that may or may not be an actual thing, actually unlocks the basement door in the clinic, and you can, well, I mean, you can see on the screen she's dead. She's totally dead. And by the way, I just want to point out, this is a side quest and highly missable. You could totally miss this. You can literally walk out with the key and then go to the next main mission. The game doesn't tell you about this part. It's a side mission. I saw it and then I tracked it and did it. So yeah. All right. Anyway, after the death of Grace's aunt, and again, much like Bloody Tom and the Hollow Man before her, Dr. Alice Young injects herself whatever she injects herself with and becomes Miss Whisper, and of course changed her name to Miss Whisper as well. So, with the key in hand, Devinda marches off to Miss Whisper's realm door, but when he gets there, I'm sure you can guess what I'm about to say, he has to place 3 skulls of 3 minibuses on the door, because I guess all these vampire gods got like some sort of family discount and used the same locksmith, so wonderful, great. Devinda places the skulls on the door and then uses Miss Whisper's special key to open the door. I am losing my mind here. Anyway, inside he's able to learn a little bit more about Grace. It seems at some point the trio of doctors put her into a medically induced coma to do something with her, but that's about all he learns. This is, of course, where I need to bring another thing I noticed up. Okay, so Devinda saw and heard memories before this one, okay? Specifically, the one with Dr. Young, aka Miss Whisper, talking with a young woman, at least that's what the subtitles called her. Her voice, Grace's voice, is clear as day. And because she has this southern accent, at least that's what I think it is. I'm not the best with American accents, but the point is, she has a very memorable voice. The young woman is called Grace by Dr. Young in that memory Devinder saw before this memory. He has to have seen that previous memory. Only this time, in this memory, they never say her name again. But again, the voice, it's clear as day who's speaking, and yet Devinder has no clue who this young girl is. He's just like, oh man, I can't believe they experimented on that young girl. I don't know who she is, but he should know who she is, because we know who she is because of that previous memory he saw before this one, and this isn't one of those games where you can do the mission out of order. No, he had to do the previous mission and heard what we heard and saw what we saw, but this time around he's just like, well, I have no idea what's going on. Whoa, wild. Oh, am I making a mountain out of a molehill here? Yes, probably, but let's just move on. Let's just move on. Further into the psychic realm palace, Devinder finds that same golden man again, whom, again for the third time, the subtitles give away, but he also finds Miss Whisper, and she isn't happy to see Devinder, but who cares what she thinks? And of course, after another long fight, enough bullets are pumped into her to weaken her, and Devinder jams another stake into her heart and turns it her ass. She'd be skippy. Okay, with Miss Whisper... Sorry. If I sound frustrated, I am. With Miss Whisper now dead, that brings the total vampire god kill count to 3. But what's next? Well, I'm glad you asked. It seems Devinder has taken a few blows to the head and actually forgotten who caused the sun to be blocked out, because this entire time he thought it would be one of those 3 gods we fought, but no. You'll be shocked to learn that it was another vampire, you know, the weirdly attractive vampire from the very start of the game. Dun dun dun! Who could have possibly guessed? Oh man, whoa, yeah. It's not like she warned Devinder with, and I quote now, "You will never see the sun again."
You will never see the sun again.
And of course, who could forget that extremely forgettable moment when she turned the sun into a black hole sun? Well, I won't, don't worry. And then she said, and once again, I will quote her here, "I killed the sun. I broke the dawn."
I killed the sun. I broke the dawn.
I just now noticed this, by the way. Mere seconds after she finished saying that line, "I broke the sun, I killed the sun, I broke the dawn," Devinder, in a tone that I can only describe as somebody putting $1 into a vending machine to buy a soda, but rather than 1 soda popping out, 2 pops out. He says this.
I broke the dawn.
This is mad. We're not supposed to be getting an eclipse for months.
Oh, Lord. Okay, alright. Okay, I'll stop now. Okay, alright, okay, I'm okay. I told you at the start this wasn't going to be my normal type of storytelling, and I meant it. Okay, I meant it. Oh, I'm sorry, but anyway, look, after getting over that earth-shattering assumption he had, Devinder concludes that the sun must be going out by the work of a 4th vampire god. The cultists call, and I'm not kidding you, the Black Sun. I'm back now. I had to down a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper while staring out across the beautiful ocean and listening to the waves, but I'm all good now, okay? I think I have the strength to finish up this story. Okay. After learning about the Black Sun, Devinda explains that the strange golden man has been appearing in everybody's dreams now and showing them a giant Ferris wheel. And what a coincidence! There is a giant Ferris wheel down on the docks. Maybe these two things are related somehow? Well, there is only one thing to do, and that's to go down to the docks and check it out. Alright, I am once again going to speed through this next part for the sake of the story, and of course for the sake of time, because I've already farted around long enough and just gone crazy with the length of this. I apologize. I'm sorry. So, down on the docks at the Ferris wheel is another vampire god, only this one, he didn't get a cool, crazy vampire form, shall we say. It turns out that the Golden Man was just psychically projecting himself to guide Devinda to the truth and also warn him about the dangers he would face and so on and so forth. And he did that by not being helpful in the slightest or warning him about anything or guiding him to the truth at all or even just telling him what was happening. So, I mean, when it comes to being helpful, he's the best. It's also revealed that this vampire god was, try not to fall down and faint from surprise here, is Charles Beck. He is the one who was doing the psychic projection. He was the golden member. Golden member. He was the golden man. He was one of the founding twins of Avium, which, this might have come as some sort of shock if the subtitles hadn't given it away from the first moment he appeared, so, I mean, there's that. Anyway, he wants our help in taking down his sister Claire, who, as it turns out, is the Black Sun. Before he can actually provide us with any help, he needs to collect his lost memories, which have been broken up into 3 pieces that we need to run around and collect. How fun. Well, we of course run around the town, collect the memories, pluck them out of each memory, blah, 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 blah. And what do we learn out of all of this? Well, from what I can best gather, the 2 twins, with the help of some guy, found a young girl, aka Grace, who had a special gift, and that he would deliver, this mysterious man would deliver Grace to the twins for evil research and experiments, I guess. So once they got their hands on Grace, they exploited her, and it led to her death. After the girl, Grace, died, Charles felt bad about everything that happened and wanted out of the whole situation, but his sister Claire wouldn't let him and beat him to death with a clock. There you go. Now, with his memories unlocked, Charles dusts himself out of guilt, which I'm not trying to cleverly get around. You can see it. He really does just dust himself. How he does this, I have no idea. But then he tells us, after his death, to use the clock that he had to kill his sister. So, with, I guess, the psychic physical clock in hand, we head on over to the Black Sun's lair. Oh, Lord. Oh. Okay. Once Devinda arrives at the Black Sun's cosmic door thing, it appears that everybody has been using that same locksmith, even the Black Sun herself, because she has the same lock setup as everybody else. However, I am extremely ecstatic to report that you don't need to track down 3 miniboss skulls for this one, because it turns out we already have the skulls required. The skulls of the other vampire gods, like... What? How? Why? Oh... Okay, I want you to picture this for a moment, okay? Imagine you're the head of your own private gang, and the only way to open the door to your own private island resort is with the hearts of your founding partners, founding members and partners. So, Look, I know she's evil. I know she's a vampire. I know this is a psychic doll. I know that this is just a video game, but for some reason it just made me laugh when I stopped to think about it, because it dawned on me. Why were we carrying around the vampire god's skulls? Why? What? Devinda would have no idea that their skulls would be used for this door. What was he gonna do with the skulls? Why would he take them? It's a video game, Lycan. Shut up. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. This game is making me go crazy. Okay. With the skulls in place and the clock sat down nicely, the door opens up and Devinda steps in to her psychic realm for the final showdown. Okay. As he begins to approach the Black Sun, he encounters a memory of her together with everybody else, all the founding members and the young girl. These were her final moments. It turns out she was put into that coma that she was put in last time has lasted over 2 years, so it's been 2 years since then. And in that time, they figured out how to use her gifts for themselves. But in order to use those gifts and do whatever they got to do, they have to completely drain her of all her blood, thus killing her. Once they drain her and inject themselves with her blood, it begins to take effect immediately, as they start feeling new feelings and they're enjoying whatever they're experiencing, while the young girl, whom they called the Gateway, whimpers and then the memory ends. She dies. Later that day, they all inject themselves with her blood once again, and this time they turn into the vampire gods and begin taking over the town of Redfall. With all of that out of the way, Devinda steps forward and comes face to face with Claire Beck, aka the Black Sun, who once again happily tells old Devinda that she killed the sun, just in case he had any doubts left in his mind. And with that, the final fight begins. And how is the final fight? Rather slow and boring, actually. You don't even shoot her. Not once. Devinda runs around the arena, breaking the Black Sun's grip on some people she's feeding on, I guess. And again, never puts up a fight while he's doing this. We just, fight all of her servants, and she just tells us how awesome she is. And after breaking her hold on the third and final person, it somehow makes her weak, and she falls out of the sky. And then her hold on the sun starts to slip as cracks of sunlight start shining through. Then Devinda struts up, grabs something that appears out of nowhere, stabs her with it, Spartan kicks her into a sunbeam, and then she explodes. After that, after her death, the sun returns to normal, at least in her realm it does, which doesn't even make sense. Okay, and then Devinda turns around and leaves the realm. Upon leaving the realm, somebody is waiting for him. It seems like it's Charles, but whoa, surprise, surprise, it isn't Charles. This golden projection is Grace, I guess. She introduces herself and confirms what we already knew, that she was lied to, experimented on, and eventually she was killed. Her blood was used to transform everybody and kick off this entire wild ride. So after that, she thanks us for killing them and then returning everything back to normal, more or less. And the sun also decides to just turn on, I guess. And then Devinda just walks out into the daylight. Well, then Grace gives us one rather loud cutscene for some reason, and then seriously, check it out. Before I say check it out, prepare yourselves, because it is loud, and this is no joke how this happened to me. You ready? 3, 2, 1, cutscene.
They called me a miracle. They called me a savior.
Yeah, there you go. In this cutscene, she once again tells us what we already know, and then explains that we were a hero for bringing back the light, and that Redfall will never be the same, and then she says that she's still in the possession of all the evil people, and that's it. The end. Finally. Oh, that took me forever. I feel like I'm going crazy. And we're not even done. We got story thoughts. Okay, here we go. Look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything here. I seriously did struggle to follow along with what was going on in the story. Some of this info, in fact, was only caught because when I write these scripts, I watch back the footage I recorded, and then I noticed something I missed, something very small that I missed. Like, for example, in the story section, when Miss Whisper, Alice Young, was interacting with Grace's aunt, I noticed the knocking of a door and little bits of sound like that. I didn't notice that while playing the game, which is why I was so confused on what was happening. So maybe if you caught that, you would have been like, yeah, there was sounds, but I don't know how you missed that. I did miss that, so it's little things like that that I noticed upon rewatching, but surprisingly not while replaying. And if I was playing with other people, which I did, I genuinely would have missed that 100%, but for different reasons. So little things like that I caught, but it didn't really help me understand what was going on. So yeah, that said, I fully admit, and this is very important to hear, that I did 100% miss stuff, like a lot of stuff. Not because I wasn't paying attention, mind you, but because, at least from my point of view, a lot of the story was actually cut out and hidden away. Vital pieces of information. And those pieces of information in notes and things like that are so easy to miss, like stupidly easy to miss in the hectic gameplay, which is what this game is. It's just hectic gameplay constantly. So yeah, I missed that stuff, and because I missed that stuff, it did impact how I understood the story. So there are notes and things that are all throughout this game that give you bits of lore and context to the situation, but I only found a few, and what little I did find was just world building. However, that isn't where a lot of the story comes from. Most of the story is told to you via these memories, but these memories are essentially just a fancy way of saying audio log. To be fair, these are far harder to miss, because most of them are tied to progression and not optional in the slightest. For example, just an ultra quick example, Miss Whisper's realm. To get her special object, you can't just walk through the door and then just beeline it for the special object. No. You have to walk your way from the beginning of the level to the end of the level, and as you do, you must stop and kill a Sin Eater, which is just an enemy that unlocks the memory. So you have to stop and kill each one and then watch the memory in full to progress. So there are 3 of them that you have to stop at, kill, watch the memory, and then once you've done that, it triggers the final memory and thus the path forward. So in that sense, these memories are unmissable. But some of them are missable. Like there are some just out in the world that unlock as you progress and are locked off as you progress and are missable, because if you've explored the area and you saw nothing, why would you go back to the same area thinking that there'll be something this time? So yeah, I'm fine with stories having deeper lore and, you know, a way to expand upon the world, but that's only if the story itself is 100% solid and complete from beginning to end. You know, you've got your start, middle, and end, and you can follow along without going out of your way to find notes, audio logs, and all that stuff. Because that stuff is really there for people who want to dig a little bit deeper. Redfall does have a start, middle, and end, but there is so much of it that's missable. So many little bits and bobs that are just hidden away and so easy to miss, like I said, in the hectic gameplay. Like, for example, when I first played this, I had no idea who the Gateway was until at the very end when Grace said, "That's what they called me the Gateway." I didn't know that. And yeah, okay, I'm just stupid, but this is just one tiny example of this. There's like... it's just... Look, what makes this worse, in my opinion anyways, is Redfall isn't a single player game. You can play it single player, but it 100% really wasn't made for single player, and it's so noticeable it's not even funny. This is a 4-person co-op looter shooter game through and through. You're meant to play this with 3 other people, and that's all fine and dandy, again, if the story was full and complete. You get just enough info, well, basic info, to follow along with what's going on in Redfall's story. You know, like, you know that you tried to escape, you know that you failed doing so, you know that the sun gets blocked, you know that you're trapped in Redfall, and you need to murderize your way through the town with the ultimate goal of killing all the vampire gods and the one that blocked out the sun. You know that there are 5 evil people that got together, convinced a young girl who had some sort of gift to let them run trials, but then they lied to her, and then eventually killed her, and then they took her blood and transformed with her blood, you know, and then started the whole event. Look, that's all fine and dandy, but that isn't what's going on in the game. There is a lot that's left untold, and especially in these memories. There's like a whole nother person that I didn't even bring up. Like, there's like literally a whole nother person, and I think if you go back to the final memory you find, which is the one in Black Sun's realm, if you look, there's like 6 people standing there, if I remember correctly. There's, I forgot their names already. I'll just go with their vampire names. There's the Hollow Man, Bloody Tom, Miss Whisper, Claire and Charles Beck, aka Black Sun and the Golden Man. And then there is Grace, but then there is also another person there. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong about that, but that's the person I'm telling you about. There is another person there, and I don't know who they are. I genuinely don't know who that person is or what their role was. I think their role was essentially just bringing the girl to the attention of the Becks, but there's even more than that. Like, for example, there's a whole nother faction that I didn't even bring up. I think they were called Bellwater? I can't remember the name. I'll put it up on screen if I remember, but that's a whole nother faction. Look, I don't know what they're doing in Redfall. Like, I genuinely have no idea who sent them, what their ultimate goal is. How did they even get into Redfall? I just have no idea. I mean, probably the helicopters, but at the very beginning of the game, which I cut out. But all of this is, like I said, might be fine if it was single player, and you can take your time, but it isn't. You know, I don't play games with other people. I enjoy being on my own, absorbing myself in the world, exploring it at my own pace. That's what's fun to me. I get plenty of time to search around and read things at my own pace, which is very important, and so on and so forth. But, like, again, like I said, this is if you're on your own. If you're playing with 3 other people, can you picture the amount of chaos going on? Everybody talking, laughing, shooting, running around and running ahead of you and doing their own things, or waiting for you to get closer to them so you can progress the story, because you have to, like, be close to each other as you take on a new mission. So if you're downstairs reading something and they're like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you get the basic idea. Like, you know, and if somebody's talking over a cutscene, forget about it. And heck, speaking of cutscenes, depending on which character you pick, they're different. So do you understand the point I'm trying to make here? Maybe this is normal. Maybe I'm just like a sound like a rambling lunatic, which I'm pretty sure I do. Am I overblowing the situation? Yeah, probably, but it all just feels broken and wrong to me. This isn't a Dark Souls game where you can, where things are obscure and made for you to think and discuss with your friends, and, you know, things aren't placed randomly around. The dead bodies there actually might tell a story that impacts the overall story, or the items you find, and so on and so forth. It's obscure, and that's the point, and that's how Dark Souls was made. I mean, like I said, that's what the game was designed around. And, you know, if you're like me and beat Dark Souls and you were like, I didn't understand what happened, well, that's on you. You know what I mean? Like, go read up on it. Go understand why you didn't understand it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's a good thing, because Dark Souls made me want to do it, made me want to go out, made me want to learn. And heck, I'll be completely honest with you. I've played Dark Souls three times to completion, and I still don't understand what's going on. You know, but that's part of the charm. It's fun, it's mysterious. This game wasn't designed like that. It isn't mysterious. It is trying to tell you a story in the traditional sense, but it's just broken and wrong. It genuinely does feel like two games were smashed together. One of them was a looter shooter for your friends to joke around and mindlessly do stuff, probably like Borderlands. I haven't really played a lot of Borderlands, but I imagine Borderlands is the gold standard when it comes to looter shooters. It feels like that type of a game, characters just messing around and just being silly, and the story doesn't really... It's just there for set dressing, essentially. I feel like that game was smashed together with another game that was a dark, serious, horror, single-player game that is meant to make you feel emotions and things like that, and the characters were deeper and so on and so forth. I just feel like those two things were smashed together, and like I said a little earlier, those two things don't mix. You know, you'll have characters in vital moments just cracking jokes, and it's weird, the tone is off sometimes, and that combined with the scattered story and the way that scattered story is told, it just makes for bad storytelling, at least in my eyes. And what makes this worse is the collectibles. Yes, the collectibles, and yes, you are still in the story thoughts segment of the video. There's an in-game item, or an in-game collectible, called a grave lock, and these are hidden throughout the world, and there is 100 in total to find. These are essentially pieces of Grace's hair, and they, again, are essentially just sort of like an audio log. It's just a fancy, schmancy audio log. Every time you pick one up, she, like, gives you a telepathic message, and you're essentially given insight from her point of view before the events of Redfall, during the events of Redfall, and even on that mysterious character just a little bit. Not enough for me to understand who he was, or what his role was, but still, it's giving you vital pieces of information, right? Most of it is just filler, but other parts are important bits of info. That's already a bit of a problem. Nothing important should be left out of the story, but here it is. But the biggest issue is that there are 100 of these things to look for, and they are completely missable once you transition out of Redfall into Burial Point, because they become locked off. And what made this worse, at least for me, is that they were bugged. Like, completely bugged out. And they just start repeating, you know? I collected all 100 of the damn things. See, look, here's the achievement. I got all 100 of them. But around about... I can't tell you the exact number. I genuinely can't. Because at first, I thought I was crazy, like deja vu, but they just started repeating, like, really early. And I was like, I'm sure I've heard this before, but... It's just... I don't know if I missed out on stuff or not. I genuinely don't. I don't know if the repeating thing even was a bug. Maybe it was put there for people who can only find 20 in one area, and then 20 in another, and then after that 40, just in case you couldn't get all 100, they start repeating. Does that make sense? Like, you don't have to collect all 100 to get the full story. That's kind of what I mean. But that aside, what really made me angry was just how short they were. They're about 3 to 4 seconds long, if even that. You could have completely halved them in number, you know, just made them longer. Just give me more than 3 or 4 seconds of dialogue, and especially if it's filler dialogue, just give me more, because that 100 could have easily been shrunk down to like 50, 40, 30, something like that. And I would have gladly taken 1 minute of dialogue over 3 seconds, expanded out over hours of gameplay of me searching for these things, because in those hours of me searching for the things, I'm already forgetting the story, because it's forgettable in the first place. Do you understand what I'm trying to bring up here? It's just... Don't even get me started on the mandatory side quests, if we're talking about gameplay, just you forgetting stuff. Like, a mandatory side quest isn't a side quest at all. I hated that I had to progress in this story. I was forced into going to find the safe houses. You do have to search them out. I was forced into finding them, unlocking them, doing the safe house mini quest that you have to do just to get the safe house mini quest to find the mini boss. and thus get the skull, and thus progress forward in the story. And then to do that 2 more times after that, and then more times for the other vampire gods, that's a total of 9 skulls to collect. And 18 mandatory side quests, most of which are repeated side quests. It's just, that isn't cool, and that isn't fun. It's just an insult. Especially, like I said, you need... The grave locks are so easy to miss. They make like a little chime sound, but they are so spread out throughout the entire map of this game. And like I said, some of them are like, I think it's like 30 in the first... No, 40? Yeah, 40 in Redfall, 60 in Burial Point, I think. I might have that number wrong. I could be wrong. So it's just... If these things are so vital that you need to search them out, there should be like an in-game map to find these things, not having to go to like a wiki page and then finding a map where they're all marked on a map. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't have to do that. If it is vital, just give me their locations. Just tell me where they are. Or have it so they appear on a minimap, or as you get closer, they appear on a minimap. Kind of like Infamous, where you had like those little electric shard things. Like when you press a button, he like shoots out like a sonar and then they ping on your map somewhere. Something like that would have been so much... So handy, but that's not the point. The point, mandatory side quests are not side quests. Don't make me waste my time, because if I'm wasting my time doing a mandatory side quest, that's taking me out, that's hours taking me out of the game to do something that has no impact on the story whatsoever, and it's just making me forget what's going on. And it, again, sorry, I'm irritated. So to summarize, the plot is slightly confusing and forgettable, but you get the basic gist of things that are going on, enough at least to understand the basic plot. However, crucial information is locked off behind notes and audio logs and memories and the 100 very missable grave locks. It's nuts. And when you're searching around for those items, just to give yourself more context on the story itself, you'll be spending hours searching for this stuff. That's just nuts to me. And that, combined with the constant stopping to do the mandatory side quests, is just... It's so backwards to me. I don't understand why this was a decision that was made, but hey, whatever. It also doesn't help that I didn't even bring up the co-op dialogue and bantering, or how, depending on which character you pick, you get slightly different cutscenes, and then you sort of get a different sense of what's going on. But listen, the video is already too long to just dive in without it. Can you ignore that stuff? Yeah, but it is still annoying that there is that missable stuff when it comes to co-op banter dialogue stuff. Is the story fine? Yeah, it's fine. Sure, whatever. Can you follow along? Yes, at times. But it would be made worse if you were playing with others. Now, am I blowing this out of proportion? Honestly, I don't know. You'd have to tell me. I've no doubt in my mind that somebody watching this video will hear everything I just said and then type up a 3-page essay in the comments about how brain dead I am and how they followed along perfectly fine and they have no idea what I'm talking about and I'm just an idiot and I'm doing it for the sake of drama and views and so on and so on and so on. And you know what? Hey, they might be right. Maybe they did follow along just fine. Maybe I am just dumb and everything I said is null and void. But I gotta say, at the end of the day, all of that stuff summarized and condensed, I still didn't enjoy the story. It wasn't horrible or anything, it's just I didn't enjoy it. And if you have watched my videos before, then only you can answer this question. Do you think I'm making this up for the sake of views and drama? Do you think I'm faking this frustration? Well, you let me know. Anyway, I've gone on for far too long, and I've rambled off. I really do sound like an insane person, so I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop and just move on over to gameplay. Whew.
Why does my heart feel so bad? Why does my soul feel so bad?
They did it! They've only gone and undid it. Oh man. I knew this patch was incoming. I did. I didn't think it was going to be out this early. I thought it'd be like a month or two or something. And heck, I didn't even know if it really was a real thing, but apparently it was, and apparently they're dropping it now. They dropped it now. So actually, to be completely honest, I'm kind of lucky that I even saw it. The way I saw this thing was just sheer luck. So yeah, but I'm in a way, it's a good thing that it came out now because it sort of finalizes my thoughts of Redfall. It's not going to get fixed. It's not going to get improved on. This is how it is. These are going to be my cemented thoughts. So let's go over this update really quickly. But before I do, let me just say I had two options here. Start everything all over again, and that would have taken me like 3 weeks to get this video out. You don't deserve to wait that long. I don't want you to have to wait that long for just this video. It's not cool. I don't like it. It makes me feel bad that I'm not bringing you something great. And if I can be selfish for a moment, I didn't want to have to start this again. It's already been a headache. I don't want to do it. I hope you'll understand why as you watch this video, but anyway, it was either that or just add this into the video and hope you'll forgive me for any inconsistencies later on in the video. There's not many, if at all, but that's the route I'm going with. I hope you'll understand. Let's dive into this. What's the update? What did it bring? Okay, so first off, we have offline mode. That's great, since I'm going to assume the servers will be shut down. Maybe soon, or maybe it could be within a year or two, but I will assume they are going to be shut down, because a lot of this update, I will kind of say, is updated towards single player rather than co-op. So offline mode is good, especially since it allows you now to pause the game. You couldn't do that before because you were always online, even if you were single player. I hate that. I hate when single player games force you into being always online. I hate it. I know why they do it. It's for piracy reasons, but I hate it. And sorry, it's not. We're not here to talk about that. You can pause the game, which is great. That kind of eliminates one of my complaints later on in the video, but not really. It's still a pain. So that's good. However, if the servers do go down, that disables all co-op achievements, and there are a few. In fact, I think all the achievements left on my Steam is online stuff. And what I mean by that is, there are achievements that there's like a friendship meter when you play co-op. I didn't bring that up, but it essentially does some stuff. But very, very descriptive. But it adds in, yeah, so one of the achievements is if you're playing as a character and you're playing with other characters, you maximize the friendship bonus for each one of those characters. Meaning, essentially, you're going to have to play as at least each of them to get this achievement. So that kind of sucks, but if co-op goes, that achievement is null and void, which sucks. Because that means if you'll never get 100%, you'll never get your platinum achievement. It just sucks. I hate online achievements. I hate online trophies. But anyway, another one is for you to be playing with the full group of characters and maximizing their friendship. So again, co-op goes, that goes as well. But the fact that you can play as single player and offline is better than nothing, and it does improve this game, if slightly. The next thing that they added in... Oh, actually, I should point out, they said they added in AI, improved AI stuff. And in my test trial of the game, I may have noticed it, because I tried doing stealth, and stealth is just awful in this game. You just forget about it. It's just garbage. It wasn't even in the original game. Like, it was, but it wasn't, and then they added it in, but they didn't. It's hard to explain, but I may have noticed an improvement in stealth, and the only reason I say may is because I'm not sure. It could just be a placebo effect. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was looking for reasons that the AI was improved. I was looking for reasons why offline mode is better, and it could have just been me searching for something, like a pattern. So yeah, I hesitate to say that stealth is better, but apparently they did improve the AI. How they did it, I'm not sure. I still noticed a few issues with the AI, but I'm not going to get into it, because it could be a bug. Those things aside, what else did they add? They added in something called community standing, which is accessed via a community board within the safe houses. Now, this is the biggest and best improvement in my eyes, and it's something that surprised me because this was something I wished was in the game, and I'll talk about it later in my script. It made me laugh because I guess Arcane Austin had the same idea that I was trying to go for. My idea was a little bit more grandiose, I guess I could say, but it's just cool to see it in here. Essentially what this is you get abilities, like passive buffs, and you get these by the game rewarding you with reputation. And how you get reputation, reputation, how you get that is by actually actively seeking out and exploring things, which does help with the exploring aspect of this game, even though there really isn't much to search for in the game. So if you rescue NPCs, you get reputation. If you find grave locks, you get reputation. If you find new locations, you get reputation. If you find hidden collectibles, which they might have added, I don't know if those were in there to begin with. If they were, I didn't really notice. I would have just found the collectibles passively as I was playing, but they might have added those in. But you get reputation for finding those. So you're rewarded for exploring, which is fantastic. Now, as a reward, you can take all this reputation and your money that you get, which is good because I genuinely ran out of stuff to spend my money on. You take all that stuff, you go to the safe house, you go to the community board, and then you can... The higher tier you have, the more abilities you can unlock. And for this, I only got tier 2, but I was looking out over all the other abilities, and some of these are really good. And this is what I mean by it's aiming itself more towards single player, because a lot of these abilities are kind of co-op abilities, if that makes sense. Like, for example, when you're on your own and you run out of health, game over. When you're in co-op mode and you're with friends, you're just downed, and then a timer ticks down, they can run over and like heal you back up. That's good. But in this, you can now sort of get that rezzed ability by like maxing out your reputation, and it essentially gives you like a second wind, I guess is the best way to describe that. So the fact that they're bringing in some of the positives from the co-op and adding it into single player makes the game better, but it doesn't make the game great. It doesn't change the way I feel overall about Redfall. And that sucks, but I am glad they added this stuff in here. If they were gonna add anything, I am glad it was this. So that is good. I do like it, I do like the abilities, I do like the stuff. It is a positive addition in my eyes. 10 out of 10, 2 thumbs up. And the final thing I wanted to talk about was vampire nests. I didn't bring this up in the script, it was cut content, because the video was real long, and so was the script, but I cut it out. Essentially, these are raid dungeons or loot dungeons, whatever you want to call them. There's something there to be like repeatedly farmed for experience, gear, and so on and so forth. It's that live aspect service. It's meant to constantly give you stuff to do, that kind of a thing. So I didn't like them. I found them a waste of time. I didn't think it was worth the effort going in, shutting stuff down, so on and so forth. But they added in a new type called the Elder Nests. Now, I didn't get far enough in my playtime to experience this, but essentially from what I could gather is that they're just harder versions of vampire nests and reward you with more stuff and better things and more, I hesitate to say unique, because there is no real unique item in this game or one of a kind, but they added in newer weapons apparently. I didn't see them, but Yeah, so you do that by going into the vampire nest, you fight a new enemy, a boss enemy, and then you have to kill it and escape the vampire nest all within a time frame. And if you can kill him and get out, then you're rewarded with great loot. So I guess that's good for the people that like that stuff, but for me, that doesn't add anything, essentially. So, oh, and they did I talk about the added difficulty? I can't remember if I talked about the added difficulty. I think I did. I can't remember. They added in. I'll say it again just in case I didn't. If I did, forgive me. They added in a new difficulty. I'm doing this all off the cuff, by the way. Like, there's no script. They added in a new difficulty, which is like super easy baby mode. So there you go. And if you like that, you like that. So what is my overall thoughts about this? Does it change the way I feel about the game? Does it make it better? It makes the game better, yes. I think if you were to go into Redfall now, even after watching my entire video, if you go into Redfall now, you are 100% going to have a better experience than I did. However, that said, it doesn't change the way I felt about the game. It doesn't change the way I feel about the story. It doesn't change the way I feel about the combat. It doesn't change the way I feel about the NPCs or whatever. It doesn't change any of that. But it does make Redfall better, if only slightly. So there you go, that's the final update for Redfall. The game is officially done, there will be nothing more, so there you go. Anyway, I'm glad I could add this in, but I'm also not. But yeah, so there you go. I guess on with the show. On with the show, and I hope you'll forgive me again for any inconsistencies. Redfall falls into what I describe as a first-person, 4-player co-op looter-shooter with light RPG mechanics and some horror. That about, I think, sums it up nicely. You'll start out your adventure by picking one of 4 playable characters: Lila, Devinda, Remy, or Jacob. Which one of those you pick is up to you, but what is the difference between each of them? Nothing. Each of the characters uses the same types of guns, they level the same, they can use stealth, and I use that word extremely lightly since the stealth wasn't really part of the game on launch. I think most of the stealth was patched in later, and it was buggy, and even up until this point where I played it on the patch that I did, I think it was like patch 3, with a few hotfixes here and there, the stealth was... to put it nicely, trash, I think is the nice way to put that. I think is the nice way to put the stealth in this game. So yeah, but anyway, each character can jump and slide and shoot and lockpick and so on and so on and so on. The only true differences between each of the characters is their abilities. Each character has 3 unique abilities that they can use at any given time, and it's these special powers that set them apart, but not by much, and some of them are better than others. So going into this game, I thought that each character would play differently. So let's just take a quick look at Jacob as an example for what I'm talking about. On the surface, Jacob seems like the sneaky type of character. You know, his abilities seem to back up that theory, and I thought to myself, oh, he's like the classic sniper stealth guy who can only use handguns and sniper rifles. But no, everybody can use handguns and everybody can use snipers. Like I said, I thought each character was going to be super different in playstyle than the others, but they weren't, and this was disappointing, but maybe it was just disappointing because I was projecting my own thoughts onto it. So, you know, I still think it sucks, but the characters are the same. But like I said, not those abilities. So what are those like? Well, for the most part, they're decent. Nothing mind-blowing, and nothing that really, like, sets them apart, but they're good. When they want to work, they're good. Let me preface that with when they want to work, they are good. Because, yeah, but I'll get to that. I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, let's go over those abilities, shall we? Jacob, as I said earlier, has the sneaky, recon-esque type abilities which back up his sort of character design. He gets a ghost gun, a ghost sniper gun, I should say. He has the ability to summon a raven, which pinpoints targets and does other things, which is good, because that can help you and your friends, if you're playing in a team, locate where enemies are and stuff like that. But his best ability is turning invisible, which can also make everybody else invisible, which can add like extra damage and defense and things like that. And that's fantastic and really does help with the stealth in this game. So yes, everybody, if you've turned invisible and everybody else is invisible, you can sneak on by. That's pretty neat. But that's Jacob. Let's move on to Layla. Layla, she can use her psychic mind powers. I guess she's kind of like, I guess the best way to describe her would be, she's kind of like Green Lantern, but lame. I don't mean any insult to Layla, but she is kind of like discount Green Lantern. She creates, like for example, he creates guns and fists and planes and giant hammers and stuff. But what does Layla do? She creates an umbrella to shield, as a shield, to block enemy attacks and protect your teammates. It's pretty good, you know. However, when you are using this shield, your teammates can't shoot through the shield. Their attacks are blocked as well. So maybe not the best, but it does give you valuable time to maybe have your teammate heal up or reload or something like that. And that's good. Yeah, I guess, but it's not that useful, especially when you're fighting vampires, because they just literally teleport right behind it and start licking you in the face. So it's not the best. And aside from blocking attacks, you can also like do a force push. Like it just pushes like the umbrella forward and does damage and hurt enemies. But I never found it useful, and I almost never used it. So aside from the umbrella, she can also create an elevator. It does have its practical uses because it does help with traversal around the world, and it does do things like once you bounce up in the air, it can like increase your damage. You know, the how much damage is dealt and stuff like that. However, you know the old saying, you know, a stationary target is an easy target. That's kind of what this elevator does. You bounce up into the air, and because you're not really moving around, you make for an easy target. And I usually found myself just getting annihilated, especially when the AI became John Wick. So, not the best. It's only useful, in my opinion, for, like I said, traversal. You can bounce up to the top of the building, or your friends can do it, and things like that. So, handy in that sense. But aside from those two abilities, what's her ultimate ability? Her ultimate ability, the best ability she can have and do, is summon her vampire boyfriend. And he comes into battle on your behalf. So, I mean, yeah, it helps. It does help, but I just, it was so silly. It was so silly. Oh, but okay. Is he helpful? Yes, he is helpful when he isn't busted. And I'll come back to that just a little bit later, but I found it funny because rather than find him useful in combat, every time I brought him out, it just made me question the logistics behind it all. Like, I was like, wait a second, how did she summon him? Well, why is he a vampire? How did he become one? Why is he friendly when all the other vampires in this game are homicidal, bloodthirsty creatures of the night? Are these pointless questions? Yep. But that's why I'm here. I'm here to ask the hard-hitting, pointless questions. But, okay. She summons her boyfriend. He swoops in, he does like a little attack and then beats up enemies and distracts them, and then pieces out. And even if you upgrade him enough, he will pick you up when you're downed in combat, and then that's really great. When he isn't busted, because, oh boy, is he busted. He was very busted in my playthrough of it, and most of the time he wouldn't work. But like I said, I'll get to that later. But that was Layla. Okay. Up next is Devinda, who I played as for the bulk of my playtime. Devinda, his abilities are honestly what I would consider the most powerful and useful in this entire game. Like, he is above and beyond the rest of the characters. Like, I would almost consider him slightly broken in how powerful he is. First up, he can do the Arc Javelin attack, which lets you throw an electric javelin that stabs into the ground or onto an enemy, and that's really good, especially because it deals out electrical damage, and aside from sometimes stun-locking enemies, is super helpful because to kill a vampire you have to stake them in the heart. But when they're getting dealt electrical damage or fire damage, they will just immediately die. And that's what makes this particular attack very useful, especially if you upgrade it and it does like a further range of attack and deals damage at higher rates. So that's really good, especially if it stun locks them. It can really help in a cluster of enemies. His second ability is Translocate, and it does essentially what it sounds like. It allows you or your allies to move around the battlefield instantaneously, and that is handy, but it is most handy, kind of like Layla's, it is most handy when traveling around the world. And, you know, you can toss it up on top of a mountain or down a mountain. You can teleport instantly up or down, or onto a building or wherever. And I swear that Devinda was in, or at least his ability was in mind when it came to placing the grave locks around the world. Because I swear some of these characters would not be able to get the grave locks without Devinda's help. Not even with Layla's elevator thing. Like, there are just some that are around in such strange locations. Like, I remember one being on like the rim of a roof, but the roof to get there, you couldn't climb there. You had to use Devinda's translocate ability. But anyway, that's not the point. It is handy, but not really in combat. Both of those abilities pale in comparison to his super special ultimate ability, which is Black Light. This skill lets Devinda know how dirty a hotel room really is, and it also can make for a sweet UV rave party. I mean, you just slam that sucker in, down into the ground in a really dirty hotel room, and you turn the lights off and crank that one song from Blade, the one that do that one. Yeah, you can just crank that as loud as you can, and then just party until the break of dawn. Okay, I'm kidding. What does it really do? Well, it blasts out UV light, and this will turn any vampire caught within its radius to stone instantly. And what that does is let you get a ton of free hits, or it will just straight up insta-kill the enemy. Like, once you slam it down and they turn to stone, if you deal enough damage to them, they literally just go, and they just, they make that sound as well. They just crumble to the ground, instant kill. And it's so powerful. It is extremely powerful, and I used it constantly, and it got me out of so many situations, especially when I was playing. Oh no, I didn't play Go. Sorry, I'm thinking of another ability. I'll get to that because that ability is up next, and that is with Remy. Remy, her three abilities are somewhat useful. Not the best, but if I had to put her on the tier list, it would be like Devinda, Remy, and then Jacob, and then Layla. Layla. Do-do-do. I was holding that in. I was holding that in the entire time. Anyway, Remy's abilities, well, they're good when they want to work. Okay, you see, you're sensing a theme here? Her first ability is, she has like a robo-doggo that can distract enemies or attack them. And this is good when it wants to work. Because when it distracts them, you can like heal up or reload, which is great, but like I said, when it all wants to work. Her second ability is the C4, and the C4 goes boom. You know, it's handy. You know, what do you want me to say? It's C4. You throw it, it explodes. I don't know if it deals lethal damage to a vampire. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't remember. But what I do remember is that friendly fire is a thing, and if you throw C4 into a group of vampires trying to help your friend, you're gonna just kill your friend. So, you know, keep that in mind. It is handy, but yeah, and her third ability is the most handy ability of all her abilities, and like I said, probably second to Devinder's UV light, and that is mass healing. So essentially she just stamps a flag into the ground and it radiates, you know, all the good and positive vibes which just wash over your body and purge out all the negative toxins and like realigns your chakra balls inside your bones or, you know, whatever. And then, you know, when all your wounds are healed, it just makes you like love your fellow guy, my dude, you know? You feel me? That's what it does. It doesn't really do that, it just mass heals. So very handy ability for you and your teammates, and can and will pull you out of any tight jams. So there you go, that's the character abilities. Let's move on to weapons and essentially combat. So weapons and combat it is. Okay, so in Redfall, you get the usual suspects of weapons. You've got handguns, shotguns, assault rifles, and sniper rifles. But that isn't all. In Redfall, you get access to a few extra weapons, such as the flare gun, which I never found useful, the stake launcher, which I did find useful, and the UV beam gun, which is pretty much Devinder's ultimate attack, but in gun form. However, I never found it useful because it just takes too long to turn them to stone, and by that time they're already beating you up. So, yeah. Now, all these guns come in various types. Some are better than others, but, you know, that's a personal preference and will vary from person to person. Personally, I've found myself annoyed most of the time. The sights on the weapons were where most of my complaints were. And there's so many glowing bright lights, and they just zoom in way too much, and it just makes it really hard to see what you're shooting at, especially if you're shooting at a vampire, because they tend to just dart around all the time. I strongly believe customizing weapons would have worked wonders, and if they wanted to keep the looter-shooter aspect of the game intact, then just have enemies drop weapon parts along with the guns they would drop. Actually, customization is sort of in the game already. You get weapon skins and skins for the stakes. They don't affect the weapon at all, but I mean, it changes the look. Though, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I found the whole system completely useless, like 100% useless, which brings me on over to weapon tiers and leveling. For a lot of you, this is gonna be old news, but I'm gonna say it anyway. This is a looter-shooter game, and as such, it relies on weapon drops to continue its gameplay loop. You shoot, you kill, enemy drops weapon, you pick up weapon, hopefully that weapon's better, and then you rinse and repeat. Each type of weapon has its own rarity on top of that as well, from standard to unrivaled, and as you go up in rarity, you'll get special stats for the guns, which are of course all randomized. You'll always be on the hunt for unrivaled weapons because, well, they're the best. And not only that, they have their own unique effects and looks to boot. However, the stronger you get, the stronger the enemy gets. They will level with you. As such, you'll always be swapping out lower leveled weapons with weapons of your current level. Why? Because now your lower leveled weapons, even if it's just by one single level, is now pretty much useless. I also found that because I was constantly switching out gear, I never had what I liked. This is frustrating, and I know it might be normal for a looter-shooter game, but that's part of the reason why I don't enjoy that type of game. That aside, what has all of this got to do with weapon skins and the skins for the stakes? Well, they don't carry over to your new weapon. I mean, you still have the skin unlocked, but since you're constantly switching out weapons due to the level increasing, you'll find yourself constantly needing to reskin that weapon, especially in the early game. And as I mentioned, the unrivaled weapons, they have their own unique skin, so because of that, you can't actually reskin them, so I really do hope you like how they look. Now, if there was just a button in the menu that says always use, X skin on gun I have, well, then problem solved. But as far as I can tell, there isn't something like that, so yeah, I found the weapon skins useless. So yes, there are a few issues here and there. Again, maybe this is all common knowledge to the vets of the looter-shooter genre, and they're currently pointing and laughing at me. But that gameplay loop isn't what I enjoy. Aside from that, the actual combat itself is, from what I can tell, rather solid. Sure, I was sick of never having the gun I actually wanted or constantly switching out, but yeah, aside from that, it's pretty solid. But there is one thing I should add. You better get used to having either a shotgun, assault rifle, flare gun, or stake launcher with you at all times, because those are the only types of weapons that can actually kill vampires. Some have stakes attached to them, like the assault rifle and the shotgun, while others deal special damage, like the fire from a flare gun or the stake from the stake launcher. You can't actually finish off a vampire with a handgun or a sniper rifle, unless it has some sort of special stat attached to it. Now, let's not get it twisted. I actually rather like that you need a stake to kill a vampire. Honestly, it's a fantastic design choice, but the stake shouldn't be attached to the weapons. How it all works is, once you deal enough damage to a vampire, they become weak, which lets you get in close and stake them in the heart via a button press and an animation. That's fine, but again, your characters should just have the stake on them. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but while I was playing on my own, I noticed at times I just didn't have the weapon I needed, and I would have to stop and bring up the menu, which, by the way, does not pause the game, and grab the weapon I needed really quickly, and it just sucks. Actually, you know what? While we're at it, what's the deal with only being able to have 3 weapons at a time? Let me have more. Don't limit me. I've got plenty of hotkeys and stuff, so let me just go at it. What's the deal? You know how much of a pain it is to always be stopping to swap your weapons on and off? You need the UV gun? Well, better stop. Bring up the menu, go to your weapons, select the weapon, find the UV gun you want, swap it out, exit the menu, then use it, only to repeat those same steps again to bring back the weapon you just swapped out. And yeah, I hear you. This wasn't meant to be a single player game. I know. When I was playing with a friend, one of us would still have to give up one of their weapon slots to have a UV gun or a flare gun or whatever. You know, somebody still has to sacrifice that weapon slot, and nobody wants to do that. Just let me have all the weapons I want. There's no reason not to. You're just taking up my time, which cuts into my fun, if even for a moment. Anyway, that's enough about the weapons and the combat. Let's move on to something else, and it's the bugs. Oh, Lord, the bugs! Upon Redfall's launch, all I'd hear is how many bugs and glitches the game had, almost to the point of it seeming like it wasn't even out of the beta stage of development yet. Like, it was a joke how many there were. Now, of course, there were players who had no issues whatsoever, And yeah, there are always people out there just to overblow the situation, especially on YouTube for, drama clicks and so on and so forth. And I confess, I rolled my eyes each time I'd hear somebody talk about it. Heck, I'd even see the footage itself, and for some reason, I'd just sit in my chair and say, yeah, well, I guarantee you're just picking 5 bugs out of, like, your total playtime of 30 hours. But hey, I had no skin in the game, man. I didn't buy Redfall, and I wasn't planning on playing Redfall, so why should I care, right? Well, eventually, Arcane Austin, to their credit, would start to patch the game, and it seemed to fix a lot of the problems everybody was having, and everybody was just happy with that, which is fantastic. And again, after more time, they would release another 2 big patches, and it was around this time that I myself jumped into the game. And what did I find? Bugs. Lots of them. I was genuinely surprised how many bugs I encountered. Like, this was on a whole new level of wild. And I can honestly say that I have personally never encountered something like this before. And this is coming from a guy who played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines on launch. And that was just pure game-breaking bugs. Now, I know some of you watching will no doubt feel the same way I did when I heard people talk about the bugs. You won't believe it's as bad as I say it is, and you know what? That's totally fine. But I'm not kidding when I say I encountered, and this isn't all of them, crashes, character save files being corrupted, which caused me to fully restart a game 3 times, visual bugs, audio bugs, T-posing, getting stuck on things, falling through the world, lag, rubber banding, invisible enemies, invisible walls, guns not reloading, animations broken, stuck in a running animation loop, missions failing, achievements not triggering even though I did what was required, enemies not dying, not being able to pick up objects in the world, not being able to turn in quests, map markers not working, enemy markers not working, or if they do, and after the enemy is dead, they still just stay there. Quest markers not working, and one of the worst ones I encountered was a never-ending rook storm. A rook is a type of enemy in the game. It doesn't matter. The point is, when a rook storm is triggered, you can't fast travel, you can't turn in quests, and you can't get quests. And that sucks. So, a never-ending rook storm led me to not being able to fast travel, or turn in quests, or get new ones. I couldn't do anything, and I restarted the game twice before it just suddenly fixed itself for whatever reason. It drove me nuts. The truth is, I could keep going on and on, but I stopped caring. I stopped taking notes, I stopped recording what was happening, I just gave up. It was an absolute joke. I thought I'd be alone in the experience I had. I really, really did. But I wasn't. One kind and one very brave soul joined me on this Redfall adventure. Channel member and friend, Aaron. Before we started our Redfall adventure together, I wanted to give Aaron a warning of what was about to happen. Now, I didn't tell him anything about the story because I'd already finished it at this point. I didn't want to color his opinion because I would get his opinion of the game when we were done. But what I did tell him was the bugs, and that they were going to be an issue. And it was about 60 or 70% of our way through our game when Aaron stopped to tell me that he didn't actually believe me about the bugs. I mean, yeah, he believed that there were bugs, but it surely had to be exaggerated for dramatic effect. And, we had a good chuckle about it, and then I asked him what he believed now. And then he said he knew I wasn't lying. And after that, we both had another good laugh and continued on our Redfall journey. And then Redfall surprised not only myself, but Aaron as well. But what did it do? How on earth could it surprise us? Well, it got worse. Much, much worse. The closer we got to the end of the game, the more frequent the bugs became. It was nuts. It was just a total joke. Something was happening, and I swear I am not lying. Something was happening almost every 5 to 10 minutes. But the biggest bugs were due to our special abilities. Aaron played as Remy, and as such had the little companion robot, and you know, it was fine and helpful at first. But the longer we played, the more broken it became, and it got so bad, it just stopped working. It totally froze. It wasn't doing a thing, not attacking, not moving, not distracting, nothing. It was just standing there doing nothing. I mean, every time Aaron would move far enough away from it, it would teleport to his current location, so it was always staying in range, but that was it. And as for me, I was playing as Layla. And my darling, sweet vampire boyfriend, Jeff, hashtag Team Jeff, he bugged out as well. Sometimes he'd, you know, swoop in, fist swing in, and do what he was meant to do, but other times he'd just pop in, punch one enemy, and peace out. Or, the worst case scenario, he'd pop in and not revive me when I needed help, and that sucked, because it would cause us to have a game over. But, sometimes I just trigger it, and nothing happened at all. Like, he never came in, he never did anything, just the ability went on cooldown, and that was it. And that's just the stuff that was what I remember off the top of my head. It was so much worse than I'm describing. Heck, I remember one time, Aaron and I got separated after he died, and as he was making his way back to me, he got stuck in a tree and had to restart his game. See, look, this is the footage of him being stuck in the tree. We tried everything. We couldn't get him out of there, and he had to restart, and so did I. So it was just awful. But then we also had issues with map marking, and like one of us would place down a map marker to like a quest location or where we wanted to go, and then when the other person would see the quest marker, it would be like off the map. Like it would just be like miles and miles and miles and miles away. Like it just wouldn't work. Or sometimes he couldn't see my quest marker, or I couldn't see his, or we couldn't see each other's, and sometimes it just wouldn't work. It was just an absolute nightmare. And look, I could go on and on and on, but I already sound like a broken record. A broken, buggy, glitchy record. I don't know enough about games to say what's causing all these issues. It could be a whole damn host of things. It could be something as simple as playing it on a console or a PC. You know, consoles all have the same software and hardware, and usually, because of that, they tend to have less bugs than what a PC player would have. And PCs, you know, they have different components and brands and operating systems. It's a technical nightmare to get games to work on all PCs perfectly. And it sucks, but that's the PC gaming is like the Wild West. That's just the way it goes. Now, it could also be just coding. You know, you fix one bug, you break something else, you do something to the game, you create bugs. Making games is a nightmare. I got no doubt about it, you know. But what sucks is I don't want to sit here and just criticize the game and poke fun at it because it has all these bugs. And it does have bugs. And the reason I don't want to do that is because, truthfully, I know what it's like to have somebody come in and just trash talk something you worked really hard on. You know, I work on these videos, and it's definitely not like working a real job. Let me make that perfectly clear. But it is hard work. You know, there'll be times when I'll be working like 3 13-hour days in a row, and that's, you know, not a lot for some people, but you know, when you're just sitting there doing all this work, and you're playing the game, you're writing the script, you're doing all that stuff. You know, it sucks. It takes time. You put your love, you know, put everything into it, and then you upload it and for the world to see, only to have some guy come up and say, well, you made crap, your video crap, your voice sucks. You know, it's just like, that's not fun. You know, it hurts. And I'm sure it's the same with game development. You know, if somebody who worked on this game is watching my video right now and is just hearing me complain about the bugs, it's probably making them feel pretty bad because they probably did work really hard and probably through crunch as well just to get this game out. And yes, it launched in a pretty rough state, but it doesn't change the fact that somebody did work hard on it. And I've got no doubt in my mind that they feel pretty bad about the whole situation. So at the end of the day, I guess what I'm trying to say here is Redfall is a buggy mess. It's got a lot of them. It's wild. So be prepared because I ain't lying about these bugs. So as I mentioned earlier, I was able to rope a friend into this madness, Aaron. And listen, Aaron, I know you're watching, and so you've probably been waiting for this video too, but I just wanted to put this out officially on the record. I am very sorry I put you through this traumatic event, and I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth it. Why? Because Aaron paid $17 for this, for the experience of joining me in Redfall. And because he had done that and he reached out and asked me if I needed any help with the game, I accepted. And listen, the truth is, before that, I almost had given up completely on the co-op aspect of the game. I had played it single player, and, well, to be brutally honest with you, I hated my Redfall experience. Like, I was genuinely angry, and all my notes were like, I hate this game. Just essentially, that was essentially all my notes. But, you know, Aaron and I, we sat down together and we began to play Redfall. And that's when I began to see a different side to Redfall. I mean, yeah, the gameplay was essentially exactly the same, and my opinion on that didn't really change too much, but I began to understand the appeal of this game, of all games like this in fact. Redfall was never meant to be played single player. You can, again, I have to stress this multiple times, you can play it single player like I did, but the entire time I just could not shake the feeling that something was wrong, and that something was a friend. You see, single player is boring, if I'm completely honest with you. There's no point to exploring. You're not really rewarded for doing so as well. There's no one-of-a-kind rare item out there that you just gotta have because it's got the best stats in the game, or, you know, no hidden chests behind a waterfall, no real side quests with any real important things going on. It's just very bland and boring. I mean, yeah, there is the grave locks, but I already spoke about that, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna do it again. Outside of those, there's not much to see or do, and believe me, I looked. When you're on your own, you really do begin to see the flaws in the game. The cutscenes that really should have other players in it, but instead have random NPCs, it's very noticeable. Your character doesn't say much of anything. The fights are tougher, you know, especially the bosses, and so on and so on and so forth. But what I will give praise to is the world. The town of Redfall is really cool, but like I said, when you're on your own, you begin to notice all the cracks within it. Do you know what I mean? It's just very empty, which, you know, duh, is the point. You know, vampires and crazy people have taken over the entire town, but that's just it. Aside from a handful of actual named NPCs, there is nobody else. Nobody to, like, really help out there in the wild, you know? So, yeah, and you also begin to notice how brain-dead the AI is, and then how inhuman it can become. Like, it will literally go from, like, brain-dead to John Wick at the drop of a hat, like, the further you go. It's just wild, you know? At the start of the game, you'll be picking off enemies left and right, and then later on, you know, as the levels rack up, John Wick appears and will snipe you from halfway across the map with a shotgun. So the combat can be interesting. So yeah, single player, it's just not the best experience. But how is the co-op experience? Well, I somehow understood the story less, and Aaron had genuinely no clue what was going on. He would constantly be asking, what's happening? And then eventually he just stopped caring. So yeah, we were just too busy just joking around, and we go from place to place mindlessly doing side quests if we could even be bothered to do them. And yeah, one of the side quests we were on bugged out completely, and Aaron was asking me what was supposed to happen, and you don't even get me started on even searching for the notes or the audio logs or the grave locks, or just, the things that are supposed to give you vital information to the stories, And if that wasn't bad enough, some of those bugs just completely broke the game in our experience. So, like there would be like cutscenes that would have just no audio playing, which, to be fair, I experienced myself playing single player, but yeah, sometimes the NPCs would just get stuck. And I mean, again, that happened to me in single player, but yeah, it was just a mess. And that was just with the two of us. Again, I'm sure this is all common knowledge, but for me, this whole thing was very new and interesting. It was very fun playing with somebody else for a change. I'm sure I'm positive that some people play differently to how I do. I'm sure that there is a group of people out there who are quiet in each cutscene and let each person take their time reading and wait for everybody and so on and so forth. But I don't know, man. I'd wager that most people, when they get together, they're just joking around and talking about movies and eating pizza and sharing memes and aren't really paying full attention to whatever is going on. And I'd wager that's where the fun comes into play. Some people will probably, write a comment and say, Redfall was amazing, what do you mean it's garbage? I don't know what you're talking about. For me, it was a 9 out of 10, 11 out of 10, My friends and I, we stayed up all night, we were talking and joking and grinding out the levels until we finished the game in the wee hours of the morning. It was awesome. But I gotta say, what was actually fun? Was it the game, Redfall? Or was it hanging out with your friends? Like I said, while I was on my own, I was having no fun whatsoever. Heck, I'd almost even put the game... I almost put the game down, sorry. I almost put it down, I almost called it quits, but I didn't. Because once I started playing with Aaron, I was genuinely having a good time. But it wasn't Redfall giving me that joy. It was hanging out with someone and chatting that put the smile on my face and his. We were just joking around. We weren't focused on how much health we had or how angry we got when we died. Well, except from one fight with Miss Whisper, that boss fight. Oh man, that was nuts. That was crazy. We were actually getting mad for that one. It's serious when both people go like dead silent, you know what I mean? And are just focusing. But yeah, aside from that, we weren't following the story. We didn't care. We were just chilling, We could have been playing an endless game of Go Fish and still been having as much fun as we did. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, do not play Redfall on your own. Grab a friend or 2 or 3 and play with them. Forget about the story, forget about just everything, just mindlessly shoot vampires, because that's where the real fun of Redfall comes into play. Especially when you're playing with your friends and your friend is playing Remy and Remy just keeps saying "Estás brutal" over and over again after every single kill somebody in the group makes. Oh man, I wake up at night in a cold sweat, and I just start weeping like a child, just shaking back and forth, just rocking back and forth, just whispering to myself, "Estás brutal, estás brutal." Remy, no, please don't say "Estás brutal" again. I seriously might need to stream Redfall one day so we can all enjoy the glory that is Estás brutal. Seriously, she has like 2 or 3 lines that end with Estás brutal, and anytime you kill an enemy, she will say one of those lines, and sometimes it's just back to back. It's just nuts. I don't know, maybe I should stream it sometime. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to go back to Redfall again. But again, to wrap this all up, once again, co-op is definitely where Redfall begins to shine, and it's best played in co-op, so I do strongly recommend you play co-op, because yeah, that's where the fun is. But now we need to take things down a notch and talk about something a little bit more serious. And it's not a pleasant topic, but we need to talk about it. And it's a recent thing that happened as of the writing of this, and that is the closure of Arcane Austin and the future of Redfall. A few days ago, at the time of me writing this, Redfall began to appear in the news once again. People were curious why this game hadn't released the 2 promised DLC characters yet. And this made me worried enough to put out this community post. You see, I'd actually been working on Redfall, this whole video, for quite some time now. It's actually been on the back burner for a while. I bought the game back in November, like I said in the intro, and I started playing the game in December and finished it up about 2 or 3 weeks later. I've been meaning to make this and release this video for quite a while, but I just kept pushing it further and further back until this month. I had finished up the Project Zomboid thing, and I had that all lined up and ready to go, and after that would be Redfall. So this random resurgence of Redfall in the news, it did have me worried, and I kept thinking, oh man, they're gonna like patch the game, or they're gonna do something big, and it's gonna like completely make me scrap everything that I've been working on. I'm gonna have to delete all my footage, delete all my notes, and sit down and play Redfall again, and rope poor old Aaron into it again, and this is it. This is gonna be like the Phantom Liberty thing with Cyberpunk. Speaking of, I don't actually have the game, but I know that it kind of like made Cyberpunk great, I guess. I don't know. But essentially, that's what I was thinking was going to happen, but oh man, I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. I woke up the next day and had a few people reaching out to me across all my social media, and they were telling me to check the news because Arcane Austin, along with a few other studios, had just been closed by Microsoft and or Xbox. Redfall was dead. No future updates, nothing. Anybody who bought the Bite Back edition of the game were going to be refunded in some form. I'm not quite sure how that was going to happen or how it is going to happen. In fact, if any of you do have the Bite Back edition of Redfall on Steam or GOG or wherever, could you please let me know how they got into contact with you, or if you did get a refund, and if so, how much of it? You know, I genuinely 100% am curious to know how that's going to go down. But anyway, aside from that, I'm going to be totally honest with you. This is tragic in every single sense of the word. The people who worked on Redfall didn't deserve this at all. And if the behind-the-scenes stories I've heard about the making of this game are to be believed, then it makes this situation like 10 times worse. Because they did nothing wrong, and yet were thrown under the bus anyway. Listen, nothing I say here is going to make things right for these people. My sympathy will not put food on their table. It will not pay their bills. But if somebody who did work on this game is watching, then I have to say, for whatever it's worth, especially coming from some random guy on the internet who thus far has been mostly negative in his opinion about the game, I just want to say I am genuinely 100% sorry. And my heart and my soul, you know, yeah, I'm genuinely sorry for you. I hope that you are able to once again stand tall and bring your passion, talent, and dedication to another studio so you can continue making games. Hopefully under the umbrella of a publisher that actually respects and nurtures your talents and knows what you do best. I know that I have sounded, up to this point in the video, I know I've come across seeming like I loathe this game and everything it stands for, and in part, yes, that is true. but it doesn't mean I actually think this game is bad. Sure, I do wish I never played it, and I wish I had the, at the time, 54 hours I spent in the game back, but the God's honest truth is, Redfall does have potential. A lot of it, in fact. The actual town of Redfall is really nice to look at. It seems like a very real place. The setting is neat and the concept is inspired. The combat, again, from what I can tell, I'm no FPS expert, but it really is solid combat. You know, aside from searching for weapons, yeah, I had a good time with it. And the design of the vampires, oh, chef kiss. It's fantastic. The mix of Nosferatu and that 30 Days of Night type look, I love it. It's perfect. I loved the artistic style and the flair that the game had. I wasn't really a fan of the comic book cutscene at the beginning and the end, and the strange, it's hard to explain. They're like the beginning cutscene and end cutscene have like this comic book look to it, and then the in-game cutscenes are like just stills, but then the story is told to you through those memories, which is just, again, still posed character models, if that makes sense. Almost like stop motion. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Stop motion. I'm not a big fan of that. It does come off as kind of cheap, but, you know, Redfall really does have a lot of good ideas. You know, Redfall, aside from the live server stuff, that stuff is bad, and I hate the tone of the game where it's just inconsistent and the characters are like, hey, you know, but then you've got blood and guts everywhere. I don't know. It just doesn't quite work. Redfall isn't perfect, you know, but it does have some really, really, really great ideas. But this wasn't the studio for this type of game. And again, from what I've heard, Arcane Austin agrees. You know, these are like two different games smashed together, and they do not work together. Like oil and water, it just doesn't mix. My idea of a perfect Redfall in my perfect world would be to gut the characters and that lighter tone and focus more on a maybe one or two characters sort of design. Maybe have two different characters who embody all four of those characters, sort of, if you catch what I'm saying. And you can pick as either one or the other, and each of them both have different stories, but in vital points of the story, they'd cross paths, and eventually their stories would, you know, merge into one. I think something like that could really work well, especially with the kind of storytelling that this game seems to be going for. Like, if you take all of the information that's in the game and all the cutscenes and all the notes and stuff and just sort of mash them into these two characters, so that way when you play as one character, you're like, I feel like I'm missing something, and then you play as the other character, and then at the end of the game, you're like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now. Oh, okay, bravo, woo, encore. Something like that. Do you know what I mean? I think that could really work. Like, two fully fleshed out characters. And I think you definitely need to get rid of the online garbage and get rid of co-op. Well, I say get rid of co-op. You can have co-op, but just sort of like have like your friend playing as either the other character or just like a reskinned color, a reskinned character, reskinned color of your character. If you, old games used to do that. You know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, stick with the single player stuff, lean more into the horror aspect, and open up the town fully and add more side quests. You know, the town really is a beautiful place to explore if there was more stuff in there. So more side quests, more NPCs to actually care about, maybe have like fights between the NPCs, you know, maybe let us save people, you know, like encounter people out in the town and you like hear gunshots in the distance and you see somebody who needs help and you know, go and rescue them and they're like, hey, thanks for rescuing me, you know, and then they go to your safe house or your base or whatever, and then you can, over time, build up the safe houses and build up the main HQ and start to take back the town piece by piece, and as you do, you can see a tangible, actual, noticeable effect in the game's world. And maybe you can have, like, as the borders begin to push out, you'll have like the cultists fighting the NPCs and like these little skirmishes, things like that. I really genuinely think that could be great. You know, like starting the game out, and at the start of the game, it's just an infested place of vampires and cultists. But then, yeah, as time progresses and more side quests you partake in, you can actually see the town being taken back by the humans. I think something like that would really be good. You know, like add in like abilities for doing it as well. I think that would be really good, like really solid. Like at the more safe houses you take back, you know, like you get like a health boost, or you deal more damage within your own territory. Something like that could really be good. And get rid of that mandatory side quest stuff. That's just awful. Truly awful. Now, is my idea generic as hell? Yeah, it sure is. But I really do think a strong single-player vampire horror game FPS type thing could really work well with a lot of environmental storytelling. I think that could be good. Why? Because this studio specializes in something like that already. You know, you do not have a car salesman do car repairs. You get a mechanic. You feel me? Still, the drama behind the scenes that I've alluded to thus far it's a rumor, alleged rumor, and so on and so forth. You have to always say that. But broken down and vastly oversimplified, it boils down to ZeniMax, the parent company of Arcane Studios, wanted a slice of the live service pie. And they tasked Arcane Austin, the Austin, Texas branch of Arcane Studios, the other being Arcane Lyon in France, with said game idea. Arcane told them, we don't do online stuff, we do single-player games with rich lore, story and lore and so on, yeah. And ZeniMax was like, well, hey, listen, I pay your bills, you will do what I tell you to do. And Arcane shrugged and was like, okay, but we warned you. And then, yeah, Arcane struggled with it, and it got so bad that after the Microsoft buyout of ZeniMax, which gave Microsoft control of all of ZeniMax's studios, Arcane actually had hoped that the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, would see what they were working on and the condition of it, and then just be like, whoa, no, shut that down. No. That's terrible. So, yeah, you got to imagine things must have been pretty bad if the people working at Arcane Austin were willingly trying to give up what they had worked on for maybe years at that point. So, yeah. But eventually, you know, that didn't happen, and Redfall was released. Redfall failed across the board and is considered a commercial failure, and most people do not like it. And Arcane Austin was the scapegoat for all of it. Even if you really stop and think about it, it wasn't their fault at all. But hey, business got a business, and shareholders gotta gobble up cash like black holes suck up celestial bodies. We'll never know what Redfall could actually have been if Arcane Austin wanted to really do their own thing with it. You know, forget about that online stuff. Like, if they had really worked on this, I genuinely think we would have gotten a smash hit. I genuinely do. And I should address that before their closure, there was a rumor going around that they were working on a rather massive update for the game. So I don't know if that's going to happen or if it actually was or is a thing. And yeah, even if it does happen, I don't think, like I said, it's going to be like a Phantom Liberty type thing. I don't think it's going to like revitalize Redfall in anybody's eyes. I think they'll probably add like maybe the DLC characters in, or I don't know, more quests or things to do, maybe new weapons or boss types or something like that. I imagine that's probably as good as we're going to get. I don't think we're going to get much more than that. So yeah, again, Redfall isn't perfect. It really isn't, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I'm also not going to sit here and actually blame Arcane Austin for it. They did not come into work and say, hey man, how can I make this game even worse today? You know, nobody sets out to make a game, well, a bad game. Nobody. I bet they went in there and did their best with everything that they were given. The budget, the manpower, just all of it. I will guarantee you they did their very, very best. And I will guarantee that at times, morale was low. And yet they pushed through and got it out. And the game was broken, and it was buggy, and yes, I had a pretty lame time playing it, as well as it seems a lot of people did. But for every person that did have a bad time with Redfall, I will guarantee you that there are people out there who have created fantastic memories playing this game and actually look upon it rather fondly. You know, as I said at the beginning of the game, beginning of the story, video, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So, once again, to anybody who worked on this game, please know that I don't blame you for the way that this game came out. I don't, and I'm not trying to actually put a personal attack on you. Not at all. I am actually amazed at what this game is, even in the state it's in. This wasn't your forte, and yet you did make something, and it works, you know, but yeah, please don't take anything that I've said as a personal attack. I genuinely do wish you the very best in the future, you know? You didn't deserve any of this, and the studio most definitely did not deserve to be shut down. And I'm sorry that it all ended this way. I wish each and every single one of you nothing but the very best of luck in the future, and I hope things get better for you. Like I said, I hope that there is a studio out there that understands what your talents are and is able to put you to good use with those talents, so you can shine bright. And remember, it's like the saying always goes, it is always darkest before the dawn. This game, it was an absolute roller coaster ride for me. I went through all sorts of mixed emotions, mostly displeasure, but there were indeed moments of genuine happiness. Redfall does have some really fantastic ideas, and like I said before, I think it really is, I think that there is a really good game here somewhere. How good my idea for the game would have been, I mean, we'll never know. It'll remain a mystery. But I really do love the vampire idea. I loved shooting. I loved the shooting in the game, and I loved the atmosphere, and, you know, it was good when things weren't, you know, quirky and lighthearted. I really did want this to be a single-player game. I really did want it to have darker themes and so on and so forth. And I wanted the story to make some sort of sense, and you know, it does. You get the general gist of it, but yeah, you know, Redfall is something, all right. The worst part of this is just the studio's closure. You know, people lost their jobs over something that they had no control over. It sucks losing your job because you were told to do something, and believe me, I know what it's like to work for an absolutely brain-dead, stupid boss who blames you for every single one of their mistakes, even though you're sitting there telling them, hey, listen, it is not going to work, here is every single reason why. Don't do this. I am warning you. And they still sit there and go, no, I think I know what I'm talking about. And then it all fails, and I'm just gonna stop right there. If you can't tell, I have some issues with that. So yeah, I do understand. I know what it's like. Look, I had all these notes here. I had all these ideas of how I wanted this video to go. And after the studios shut down, I don't know. I felt like I needed to rework a few things, but still not let it color my overall thoughts and opinions. It doesn't change how the game was when I played it. It doesn't change how I felt while I was playing it. And it sure as heck doesn't impact my overall opinion. I wish I could sit here and sing its praises, but I can't. I wish I could sit here and tell you how everybody was wrong and all those YouTubers are just full of it and were just rage baiting and so on, but I can't. This game is mostly negative on Steam for a very good reason. Yeah, I know. There are people out there who probably just jumped on the bandwagon of hate because, you know, there are morons out there. And no, I'm not sugarcoating this. There really are morons out there who dislike a game just because, lol, your game sucks, bro. You know, or just some other idiotic reason, you know. If you sit there and go, hey, why do you think this game is bad? Please, just give me one example. And they're just like, it just sucks, man. That kind of person, you know. Or they just, like, pick out something stupid just to annoy other people. Trolls is what I'm saying, you know. They're morons. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. They've always irritated me to no extent. And yeah, I have no doubt that there are people out there who looked at Redfall and just jumped on the bandwagon of hate just because they could, you know, just to stir up trouble. And I went into this video with high hopes. I genuinely wanted to prove everybody wrong. And all I did was prove them right. I get it now. I just didn't gel with Redfall. Yeah, I did have a fun time on co-op, but like I said, I could have been playing Connect 4 and still having as much fun as I did. Just because I had fun hanging out with a friend doesn't mean the game just somehow magically fixed every issue I had with it and just suddenly became a bug-free mess, you know? We did suffer. We both suffered with this game. At the end of it, we were both disappointed. And when I did ask Aaron, was the $17 you paid for this game and the genuine experience you had worth it? His answer was no. He had fun playing with me, but he really didn't like this game at all. And I don't blame him. And I paid a few bucks more than he did. I paid 20 bucks for this. And we still think we paid too much. So, yeah, I don't know. And listen, full transparency here. I literally didn't even bring up everything I wanted to say about this. This is like the 4th rendition of my script for Redfall. I ended up deleting entire sections of the video, mostly the odds and ends and the music. I don't know if you noticed it was not in here. I didn't really have anything to say about any of that stuff or the music or whatever. Everything I was just saying was coming off as mean and repetitive. You know, this video is already seeming like I'm an insane lunatic just rambling. The whole script used to be about 39, well, close to 40, 39 pages, and now it's about 32, so yeah, there is a lot wrong with this game, and it genuinely pains me to say that, because I really wish Redfall was a success. I wish it was great. I never wish a game is bad, but it isn't. So, should you play Redfall? No. No, you shouldn't. I don't doubt that some people out here really did love Redfall and had a good time, like I said, and I don't doubt that there might be somebody who is watching this video. Maybe you are watching this video, and you look at this thing and go, well, you know what? After everything he said, I think I might still give it a chance, you know? And then you'll sit down, play it, and walk away from the experience going, you know, yeah. That was actually pretty good. I had a good time with that, actually. I seemed to follow along just fine. I don't understand what he was talking about, but yeah, listen, it's not flawless, but yeah, I had a good time with that. Yeah. You know, I don't doubt that there are some people out there who will have that type of experience, you know? Even if you have half the experience I had, you know, maybe, I don't know. And I genuinely feel bad that Aaron had to suffer with me for this, so yeah. But listen, if you really must, and I mean you just gotta play this game, please get it on Game Pass. But don't spend your money on Game Pass just to play this game. It's not worth the subscription fee. If you've got Game Pass already, for whatever other reason, yeah, give it a go. You know, the only thing you're gonna waste is your time, so grab a few friends, sit down, have a good time, because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you play this game in co-op with 3 other people and you're all on Game Pass or whatever, you probably are gonna have a really good time with it. So yeah, take that for whatever it's worth. This is the first time on this channel that I've actually had to say no to something, and it sucks. You know, and it's made all the worse by what happened with Arcane Austin. Still, at the end of the day, all of this is just my own opinion. And I have a feeling, the sneaking suspicion, that you wouldn't be watching my videos if you weren't interested in what I have to say, especially if you've made it this far in my video. I was once told to own my opinion in these videos, stand up and stand behind what I've said, and not worry about what others think of my opinion. And I will own this opinion, and I will own my thoughts, and I do stand by my recommendation of this game, but man, it doesn't feel good to say. I love games, and it might surprise you to hear this, but I like games even if I hate them. It lets me understand why I feel the way I do about other games, and it helps guide me in future decisions I have to make about games. It's also fun to get out of my comfort zone from time to time because, you know, I might find something, something that I thought I would hate, but actually end up loving. A perfect example of that is Harvest Moon: Back to Nature on the PlayStation 1. I looked at that game and I laughed. Man, I laughed. I thought, I genuinely looked at that and said, what idiot would play this? Well, I guess I got egg on my face, and I must be an idiot because I ended up loving Harvest Moon: Back to Nature, and it was because of that I ended up playing Stardew Valley and liking Stardew Valley and other farming simulator games. And it might surprise you to know this, and please don't faint, please be sitting down, but there are other game genres that I just genuinely do not like. And those genres are, because I'm about to tell you, so be prepared, don't click off, but those genres are fighting games, rhythm games, and platformers. I suck at each and every one of those things. However, there are games within those genres that I did enjoy. Like fighting games. I love Dragon Ball Z, I like Mortal Kombat, I played Tekken and all sorts of stuff. I am absolutely 100% probably the worst person you will ever see play a fighting game, but I love them, especially those Dragon Ball Z fighting games. Oh, I love them. Woo! I love them a lot, I really do, but yeah, I'm not a fan of fighting games. I don't go out of my way to play them. When I see a fighting game released, I genuinely just kind of gloss over it because chances are I'm not going to like it. But I will still take a chance on those games. Somebody recommended Infamous to me. Infamous? No, not Infamous. What's it called? Injustice. Injustice. Somebody recommended that to me because I like, superheroes and DC and stuff. And I thought, yeah, all right, I'll give it a go. I ended up enjoying that. I had a good time with it. I was bad at it, but I still had a good time with it. And, with rhythm games, I mean, yeah, okay, when it comes to rhythm games, 95% of them I don't like. Sorry, I know. 95% of them I just don't like it. And I'm really bad. I got no rhythm. I ain't got no rhythm. But, yeah, I'm really, really bad at rhythm games. I can't do them. My brain cannot, it just cannot fathom what's going on. It's comical almost, but there is a rhythm game I really, really loved. Elite Beat Agents for the DS. I loved it. Loved it. It was so good. It was so fun. It was like very cool. I still see the dance moves that they do and stuff like that. Really good. I enjoyed that. But yeah, most of the time I don't like them and I suck at them. And when it comes to platformers, well, I wouldn't be playing I can't think of any platformers off the top of my head. How embarrassing. Rest assured that there are platforming games out there that I do enjoy, but most of the time, like I said, I kind of just skip over platformers. But yeah, if something does interest me, I do take a chance on it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Always take a chance on a game, even if you think you're gonna hate it. Take a chance. So yeah. Anyway, I think it's high time for today that I shut up and let you get on with your day. And this video has been... It's been an absolute nightmare to make this. It's been an absolute nightmare. Oh, man. It really has been. Oh. But I won't get into that. Like I said, I've talked too much. But I still hope at the end of the day, even though this video was really, really different, I still hope that you really enjoyed the video. I really do. I hope you got a great laugh or two, or, you know, whatever. But yeah. Anyway, before I march off into the sunset, I'd like to thank a few rather Venzo folks who, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, remember when I said I almost quit playing Redfall, but I didn't? It's because of all of you that I didn't. I felt like I would be committing a crime if I just, you know, I'm trying to treat this like a genuine job, and it'd be kind of like not turning up to work. Do you know what I mean? But still getting paid, you know? Kind of like clocking in and then just walking away. That's how I felt. So it's because of all of you Venzo folk that I genuinely pushed on and made this video. So thank you very much. I'm not trying to say any of this as like, oh, it's all your fault. Damn you. Finger wag, you know. No, I am genuinely thankful to each and every one of you for genuinely feeling like I've earned your membership to this channel. So thank you very much. I say it every single time, but it always bears repeating, because I am of the mind that if somebody does something nice for you, no matter what it is or how small it is, you must go out of your way to let them know how much of an impact they had on you and how much you are thankful. So thank you, and I will never stop thanking you. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you. So thank you, Family Dog, Anya the Khajiit, David Welch, TJ and Jack, who probably wasn't allowed to watch this video. But if you are here, Jack, and you did watch the video, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it, Jack. Aaron Nelson. I am so sorry, buddy. I am so sorry you got roped into this. But hey, listen, I tell you what. You know, like a true soldier, you went into the trenches and you held your position. You did this channel proud, my friend. So, I hereby award you the Medal of Honor, Estas Brutal. It's all yours now. This badge will stay by your name forever to always remind you of those good times. Oh. Enjoy, Aaron. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Miami Fred. Thank you, Rog. Thank you, Thierry. I have a really long username, Rana. Joe Enderman, who, yes, stayed this time. Thank you, Leaves on Pavement, which is absolutely hilarious because right now while I'm recording, I don't know if it's being picked up on the microphone, but there are people outside blowing around leaves on pavement. So maybe you're outside getting blown around right now, having a really good time, just flying through the air. You know, what's that, you know, singing that song. What's that song, you know? Loving in the sunlight. I don't know the name of that song. Maybe that's what you're doing. Ha ha! And finally, the Elder Irish, who rejoined the channel. So thank you very much, each and every one of you. You all went above and beyond, and I can never really thank you enough. I am truly humbled and honored. So thank you very, 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 very much. Anyway, up next, for those of you who just love knowing what's coming next, it's going to be one of two things. I don't know which it's going to be yet, and I don't want to cement. I don't want to like carve it in stone which is going to be next, because the truth is I had a lot of trouble with the Fallout TV show. I don't know if anybody noticed, but Amazon, yeah, they came after me like a feral ghoul. No, not even a feral ghoul. A pack of feral ghouls. They made me channel my inner Butcher Pete and hack, whack, and chop my video to appease them, so it was definitely not the video I had envisioned, and it honestly turned out, I think, pretty bad, but yeah, it just wasn't my best work, and yeah. But so thank you, Amazon. But the point of what I'm trying to say here is it's made me reevaluate how I do the movies and the TV shows or whatever it is I choose to do. So if I have trouble with what is going to be next, which is the Super Mario Brothers movie, if I have trouble with it, it won't come out next. And in that case, Redguard will be... No, sorry. Let me be professional here and say the full name. The Elder Scrolls Adventures. Redguard. There you go. So that could be next. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's gonna be... who knows what's gonna be next? Let's just put it that way. But after that, I'll dive into the Witcher series. I've put it off far too long. And then, yeah, Arcanum will be after that, and then Fallout Tactics, and yeah. Anyway, I really will shut up now. I'm gonna go have a lie down. You have a fantastic day or night, and I will see you next time. Peace out, pals.